Welcome back. New feeding technology is set to make a big difference in the way cattle feeders finish their animals. New intake modifying technology from Land O'Lakes Purina Feed is making its way to feedlot operations. For more about this innovation, we turn to Cattleman reporter Brian Baxter, who's bringing us the story from Northwest Iowa.
Cattle feeders face common challenges as they work to finish cattle in the most profitable way possible. Battling the weather, managing pen conditions, and working to keep input costs down are at the top of the list for feedlot managers like GARRET ENGLIN of the Farmers Co-op Society in Sioux Center, Iowa.
Since we're up in the northern part of Iowa, we experience winter as severely as anywhere. Our facility here is designed to deal with the most inclement weather. This past winter we had a very high snowfall rate. It was a very cold winter, and we saw an obvious performance advantage for our cattle within the building versus our cattle in the outside. Even though our outside pens are all concrete embedded, the shelter itself created a much more ideal atmosphere for the cattle.
Beyond cattle comfort, ENGLIN is working to improve the efficiency of his feed ration, taking advantage of an innovative technology from Land O'Lakes Purina Feed, the new Accuration cattle finisher.
The reason we chose Accuration is there's really not technology like it out there. It's very unique to the Purina LOL brand, and we felt that this was something that we could add value to our customers as well as add value to our total overall feeding operation.
An Accuration product is a product that's coming on the market that's going to help the customer become a better cattle feeder, be a better bunk manager, and improve the overall performance of his feedlot cattle.
This new technology, as far as the Accuration finisher, it's really related along our whole broad scope of the IM technology. It's the snack feeding technology to where we get cattle to eat smaller and more meals throughout the day, which is very important in a feed yard. What it really does for us is it makes these cattle more efficient. We can reduce our intake just a little bit, but they'll be more efficient at converting those nutrients that they consume. And when we take a look at today's cattle economics, increasing efficiency in today's cattle operations is one of our key goals.
The benefits of the product are we see it mostly from an efficiency standpoint. Our cattle are more efficient. We saw a very obvious improvement in the cattle that we fed the Accuration product to versus our more traditional diets.
As a feedlot manager, ENGLIN works closely with Purina's field cattle consultant, Dr. Drew Shane, and with his feed dealer, Jared Terpstra, to formulate feed rations and to best manage the new Accuration finisher technology to get the most benefit.
One of the nice things we saw about the Accuration product is with the labor that we have involved in the feedlot and the shortage, we've gone to a more simplified feeding program. We're feeding once a day. But we still wanted to get the efficiencies of our multiple day feedings as we had in the past. And that's where the Accuration finisher comes in, as it allows our cattle to be more efficient. The intake modifier allows us to have our cattle consuming more meals at different times, and so we can pick up our efficiencies but also decrease our labor and give us a more uniform feeding program.
The uniqueness of our Accuration finisher program is that we're going to have even a higher energy diet, because what we're doing is replacing the roughage that we have in the diet with some intake modifiers. And what we're looking at is having a diet that has maybe 2 to 4 units of roughage on a dry basis, and then the rest of the diet is grains and byproducts. And what we're doing is adding intake modifiers to kind of change the eating behavior of cattle so that they will take on more snacks per day and have less intake at each meal. But with that, what we're able to do is change their eating behavior and allow the cattle to stay on feed even though they're on a very low roughage diet.
In response to the challenges that face cattle feeders, Purina's Dr. Ron Scott and his research team developed the Accuration finisher program. The development process is rigorous and includes work at Purina's Longview Nutrition Center as well as trials in commercial operations.
When we have an idea, we just don't stir it up in the lab and start selling it. We have a process that we go through in developing a product. So we'll have an idea, we'll work on it at our nutrition center, then we'll begin to feed cattle there. If it looks like it works, Then we'll do another study and try to perfect it. In some cases, we'll be working on something for 3 or 4 years at our facility before we get to the next level. So the next level is not selling it, the next level is proving that it works in the commercial operation. So it may be working with ranches, it may be working with the university, or in this case working with some feed yards to make sure that what we've seen at our nutrition center scales up to what happens in the real world.
Dr. Ron Scott, he gets out into the field, but not as much. I'm out in the field on a day-to-day basis, so when we take a look at a project like this, you know, it's very important for my feedback going back to Ron as far as what we might need to change, other potential avenues that we might take that product. So all of our field consultants have a very important role in that, in providing input into our product lines.
I feel very confident in the data that I received from Land O'Lakes Purina Feed. I feel that they've taken the data, they've researched it, they've also taken it on farm and researched it like we've done at the feedlot.
Now with hard data in hand, the Accuration finisher is ready to deliver benefits to cattle feeding operations, whether large or small.
This program really has a nice fit for everyone in the industry. If you got 10 head or you got 10,000 head. We've got some self-feeder programs, so a bulk feeder for someone who doesn't have very many cattle, and that allows you to feed a very high concentrated diet because you just can't get all the right ingredients into a self-feeder because it won't flow. So we've kind of perfected the self-feeder program. It has a nice application for somebody who's weaning calves or somebody with some Holstein calves that want to feed them out.
What I found with the Accuration finisher is the cattle had a very good feed efficiency feeding this past winter. The rate of gain stayed the same, but between other cattle on a self-feeder, but the feed efficiency was about 2 pounds better on my Accuration cattle than on my traditional self-feeder cattle. So, and that makes a big deal in the end on feed costs, on feeding on a self-feeder, because sometimes feeding on a self-feeder can be very costly if the cattle eat a lot but don't convert.
When I take a look in comparing bunk-fed to self-fed and on our improvement in efficiency in these type of programs, a lot of times I'll look at the efficiency in a bunk-fed situation. We'll improve anywhere from 7, 8, maybe 9% improvement in efficiency. But when I take it to a self-fed situation, I'll see improvements in efficiency pretty easily 10% and sometimes up to 15, 16% improvement in efficiency. That's where this technology, I feel, really shines, is in a self-feeder program, because just like I alluded to, there is no control of intake in the self-feeder. This technology is really designed to help control intake. So I think it really shines in a self-feeder program.
Feedlot managers who use the Accuration finisher program also see other benefits.
From a feed delivery standpoint, we would end up having less loads delivered to the pens because we're putting less roughage into the diet, which is the bulkiest portion of our feed ingredients. From a labor standpoint and an equipment standpoint for removing the waste out of the pens, it just takes less loads overall. So we have a decrease in the amount of labor it takes to remove the product.
One of the big things that's overlooked in this program is that we reduce the reliance on roughage. So there are many times when roughage is very high priced or it's not available. Well, with this program, we can still feed cattle and feed them competitively. Another key thing is that when we take roughage out of the diet, we're also changing the output in manure. In other words, roughage in a high energy diet is indigestible. So what goes in also comes out. And since we have less going in the diet, we have less manure production. So we're reducing the output of manure.
Part of this technology in making these cattle more efficient is we help improve pen maintenance. So Garrett's also looking at it from that standpoint. Can we reduce some of that bedding that he has to use, which is then a cost savings, and also along those lines is keep pen conditions in better shape, which we know cattle, as we get into mud, and we'll get a lot of mud here before too long in our open pens here in northwest Iowa, but we know poor pen conditions really hurt on our cattle efficiency.
With our operation here, We are totally enclosed and confined. We do a lot more bedding, and we saw an obvious decrease in the amount of manure output. We could see a dramatic change in pen quality as far as it being a much drier pen, hauling less manure out, so that is a labor savings that we had.
The Accuration cattle finisher with intake modifying technology is changing the game for those who finish cattle. In Northwest Iowa, I'm Brian Baxter for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
To further explore the extensive line of products from our friends at Purina Mills, visit our website at cattlemantocattleman.org.